so that they weren't overwhelmed with this job. So it's very possible that God put a lot of the animals simply to sleep during this time. Especially for 40 days and 40 nights there was no sun because it was raining. I mean, you know what happens when you put a cloth over a bird cage? What happens? Birds fall asleep, they think it's night. Well, if it's perpetually night for 40 days, a lot of these animals would probably just sleep a lot of the time and won't need a lot of care. Okay, so that's a possibility. There was not necessarily a ton of lights inside the ark. So again, a lot of darkness, keeping everyone docile and asleep most of the time. So that would minimize a lot of the personal care that there would be for some of the animals. Now, I would also say that this also explains how Noah and his family survived. Because remember, there were cows, chickens, ducks, goats, sheep. So they're still there. They're getting eggs, you know, from the chickens and the ducks and the turtles and whatnot. So they're eating those, you know, and they're getting milk from cows and goats and sheep and so forth, so they're making cheese and drinking milk and all of that. So I think that that's partly how they survive. I imagine, if you really wanted to think about it, they could fish. You just go up to one of the things and drop a line outside there and catch a few fish now and then. I think that it's a possibility. It's not impossible to think. And if you read what it says in Genesis 7 about 7 of the different kinds of animals that went on the ark, then I imagine during this time every now and then they would have, you know, they would slaughter one of the sheep or goats and have mutton, you know, for dinner. I mean, it's possible. If they were on the ark for a year, then it's possible some of the animals were reproducing a little and that they could have produced some of that in order for them to survive. So I don't think it's impossible to think of the 8 people on this boat to be sustained by all the animals on there. I think that they were fine. They were taken care of. Okay.
And Chip, the other thing also is that because of Noah's faith, and he's very confident that God will always provide.
Yes.
Regardless.
Yes.
You know.
And that's something that has to be said in all of this too. Again, the whole thing, the whole story is a miracle. The flood, the salvation, everything of it. So God takes care of him. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there wasn't a little multiplication of food when necessary on the ark. You know, not just for Noah and his family, but for the animals. See, God cared for them. Otherwise, why did he put them on the ark? You know? So God cared for all of that. So I think that there was that element too. I think there was Noah's faith in doing what God had asked him to do, and God provides. Simple as that. And if you believe the first, then it's not hard to believe the second. You know what I mean? If God said, build this boat, do you think God would just then forget about him and say, okay, you're on your own now, Noah. Good luck. Bon voyage. No, see, that doesn't even make sense. You know, it doesn't make sense. So the fact that God remembered Noah is a way of saying that he took care of them while they were on the ark. Okay?
And it's the same way too nowadays, that if we keep our faith, strong faith, we have nothing to worry because God will always provide.
That's right.
And that's why we have some miracles in our lives, you know,
Yep.
miracle in a day or all these things.
Yep.
It's because we know that God will always take care
That's
of us.
right. That's right. And if it doesn't look like God is going to come through, like I said, with an answer, then his will be done. And if we are martyred for our faith, then God's will be done. You know, not to say that, you know, we're going to die tomorrow, but I'm just saying that that's how God cares for his own. We have to trust him that he knows what he's doing.
Yes.
Whether you're Noah on this boat, whether you're Moses on the mountaintop, whether you're King David facing a giant, you just know that God's going to provide. However he does, God's will be done. However he does it, God's will be done. I love what it says in the book of Daniel about this. It's well worth to look at it. You remember the story of the fiery furnace and all of that? You know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego wouldn't bow their knees. And they said, he says, I want you to do it. And they said, no. And they said, we're going to throw you into the fiery furnace. And they said, that's nice. And it says, Daniel chapter 3, verse 16, page 738 if you have my Bible. Daniel chapter 3, verse 16. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. Now that sounds good, but wait. But if not, in other words, you throw us into this fiery furnace and we go, but if not, be it known to you, O king, we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image which you have set up. So what were they saying? Our God can save us from this fiery furnace that you can throw us into. And if he doesn't, I've got news. We're still not going to worship your golden gods. Got it? That's the kind of faith that we need to have. That's the kind of faith that we need to have. Whether God answers my prayer with a miracle or not, I'm not going to worship your gods. Got it? Good. Now you just do what you need to do.
And they were numbered.
And in this case, what did God do? Preserve them. What if he didn't? Well, right? They still go to heaven, you know what I mean? See, they win either way. And God wins either way. I've got news for you, because he has his martyrs up in his heavenly kingdom, praying for those here on earth that they be strong and fast so that they can be up there as well. And if not, then God does a miracle for everyone to see how the Lord takes care of those who love and serve him. It all has to do with our disposition. It's all about that. It's like that is our disposition as believers. Be it known that you can do whatever you want. Our God is able to deliver us. He can do it. But if he doesn't, I'm still not going to worship your gods. There you are. Okay? Yes?
Just like the 7 sons and the mother and Maccabees. I love that one too, where they refused to worship it.
Yes. Very good. In the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 6, talks about the martyrdom of the 7 brothers. And the youngest brother watches in front of his mother while all of the older brothers slowly are killed because they won't eat pork as they are commanded to. And the youngest brother is there with his mother. He's the only one left, and he's worried. And she goes, don't be worried. Don't be worried. God is able to deliver you. And if he doesn't, guess what? You're not going to serve the gods of the Greeks. So there's an example where God did miraculously stop them. Well, who's better off? The executioners or the martyrs?
Martyrs.
Martyrs. See, God wins either way. So if I had to bet, if I was a betting man, I'd bet on God, because he always wins. Always. Always. He always wins. Period. If God were running for election, I'd vote, because he always wins.
Amen.
He always wins. Always wins. Okay? It's just kind of his nature. He always wins. Never fails. Always wins. All right, so how did all the world's animals fit on the ark? Like, how did they get kangaroos? They're clear in Australia. You know, that's kind of a long ways to go from, you know, wherever the ark was built. And if we had to speculate where the ark was built, I would say it was in where we would consider nowadays Iran or Iraq, roughly, I would say. Somewhere around there. So how did the kangaroos get from Australia to Iraq? It was a miracle. Okay, I think, yes, I mean, that is a part of it. I mean, it's interesting when you see some of these Bible movies, you see Noah playing this flute like he's sort of the Pied Piper, you know, bringing all the animals in 2 by 2. The scriptures say nothing of that. It just says that God called the animals to come to the ark and they went in. God called the animals and they went in. Is that so hard to believe? No. You know, he was not the Pied Piper of the primeval world. You know, I think that's cute, but no, he didn't have to entice the animals in. God called them in. God called them in. Okay? I think that part of the answer is understanding that it's possible that the entire earth was one giant landmass. If you remember your geology classes, this is called Pangea. Pangea is just a Greek word that means all earth. Pan means all, Gea means earth. So Pangea just means all earth. It refers to the time in which all of the continents fit next to each other like a jigsaw puzzle, you know? This idea became popular in the 18th and 19th centuries after the coast of South America looked like, when you look at the coast of Africa, looked like you could fit those two together. Even today, when you look at a map, doesn't it look like those two could fit together like a jigsaw puzzle? Well, I've got news for you. Geologists said, well, if this is true, then the same types of rocks on the coast of Africa should correspond roughly to the rocks on the coast of South America. If they were once together and they broke apart, then they would be roughly the same. Well, guess what? They are. It's the same type of rock strata. So at one point, I mean, it's just evident, these were fit together at one point. It's possible now that we can picture the whole earth together in one giant landmass. The giant one landmass is called Pangaea or Pangea. The super ocean on the other side would be called Thalassa. This is considered the primeval world that the earth was in at one point. And I think that this helps us explain how did all the earth's animals get into one spot. I think at the time of Noah, it was just one giant landmass. And that's why the animals didn't have to, you know, kangaroos didn't have to hop across the islands in order to get to Iraq. I think that was all fit together in one spot. Okay? And I think this is my personal belief. This is not the church, this is not anything, this is my personal belief. You got that? Okay? This is my speculation based on what I'm about to show you to help explain this, is that part of what the Noah's flood did was cause the land masses to separate. I think the flood is a cause of what we call today continental drift. Okay? And I think it began with the flood and it continued afterwards. All right? So that's answer to part one. What about dinosaurs and how do they all fit in? The short answer, as far as I'm concerned, is that I do believe that, if not all, some of the dinosaurs survived in the ark. And later, after the flood, didn't survive because the world's conditions, the weather conditions, the conditions of the earth were just not suited for them. and that they later were killed off. But before they were eventually rendered extinct, I think that they are the basis of what, again, a universal story is, what we call dragons. I think that the few that did survive, and I would speculate that some are still alive in small amounts, even today, are the basis of the world's dragon legends. That these creatures, again, have a similar etiology. They have a similar appearance around the world, that when you strip away some of the more fanciful parts, look very much like what we would call dinosaurs today. And that these creatures were feared by early man and therefore hunted to extinction or near extinction. Okay? That's a short answer for a very deep question. And it's like, well, where do you get all that? Where's the proof? Where's the evidence? Where's this? Where's that? Where's the other? Okay, well, just take a pill, all right? That could take us, weeks to go over. But some of the things that I would offer, just in general, for proof that dinosaurs do, in a limited fashion, still exist today, I would say are one, creatures like the Komodo dragon. If you've ever been to the zoo and seen this thing, it's a little dinosaur. It really is. If you've ever seen it, it's an enormous lizard. You can go to the LA Zoo and see it. Okay? I mean, it's about the size of this, and when it moves, I mean, it's incredible. It's just a huge lizard. Okay? I would say that that is an example today of something that was once considered a myth, by the way, that has now been discovered and is just an animal that's left over from this primordial period. I would say the existence of the coelacanth that was discovered in 1937 is another example of a fish. It was only known in fossil records, this fish, that was later caught alive off the shores of Madagascar in 1937, and has since, they've